tempted and tried. How often we question why we must suffer year after year, being accused by those of our loved ones, even though we walk in God's holy fear. Oh, 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 Father alone will know all about it. Obedience to God, whom is the head of my life. Is he the head of your life today? To Jesus, whom died on the cross for all of our sins, and the Holy Spirit that dwells within me. Thank you, Jesus, because today, I'm telling you, this has been like a little week that the enemy thought that he was going to take something, but it's a liar. Because the weapons can form, but they ain't going to prosper. They're not. They just ain't going to prosper. But today is the 21st, and out of common courtesy, even when I was on Facebook, I let people know when I was going off and when I was coming on, so that you can know, keep up with me as Christ lead me. So I'm going to read, it is May 21st, and I'm going to read May 21st word, and this is from this book that my daughter had got me, and I share these daily devotions with over 30 people on a daily, and sometimes I have to, it's an individual thing, whereas I'm not in a group, because groups are culturists, it's a form of witchcraft, so I individually send these group texts out, and me and my cousin Antoinette, we go the day before, and we do the study on what we read before we send the messages out. And I just want to read, I'm going to read May 21st because I want to get this one done today. It's say, never forsake your high calling in me for the empty rewards of those who bargain for your soul with cheap offers, put rid of foul and the stench of the sun. Also tempting, the counterfeit promises are that strangle your beauty and kill your soul. You're my chosen vessel, my sweet adorable treasure. I've chosen you myself so together we can soar to high places, dance on the mountains, sing with the angels, thrill to the wonders of my creation, and multiply everlasting joy. Honor your calling, my beloved. Stay close to me. And I love it because God is an on-time God, and when his word come forth, I mean, it don't come back void. And every time when I decide to share this, my book with Jesus talking to me, is because every time I come forth, I get confirmation that I'm on the right track. So what I'm going to do here is, I showed you a couple days ago my maternal side of my family. Because the paternal side of my family, I ain't got no pictures to show you like that. I do have pictures of, I don't have no pictures of my great-grandmother, which was Mama Jet. She passed away when she was 98. They buried her on my birthday. My grandmother, I got plenty of pictures of her. And she's actually, I believe she was the only child. If she wasn't, I don't know, because she's the only grandmother that I knew on my paternal side. And she's 96 at the present time. I have plenty of pictures of her. And I know my grandmother had 2 children, which is my Uncle Leroy. He was the oldest, and then my dad. Uncle Leroy had 3 sons, and them the only 3 that I knew until after after he had passed away. Then the rest of them had surfaced. And I can tell you that the ones that surfaced, looked more like them than the ones that he had, that I knew. So I'm like, wow. And my dad, he had me, he had Kim first, and she's resting peacefully. Then myself, and then my baby brother that's the one that passed away, that was 21 months, and he's resting peacefully too. So I'm just gonna come from, I guess because I already been in St. Louis. I was kind of giving you like a little summary of what we have already talked about, and then like I said, my mom and dad, they didn't stay together because I was saying didn't fail to realize, to mention that it was one or two of my mother's sisters that was supposed to be her sisters had got into my mother's relationship and was talking to my mother about leaving my dad. Not because of the infidelity, I don't know, but one of the things I heard is because I believe that she was starting to make a lot of money, more than he was. And she's like, leave him. And, my mother really loved my dad. So, but I know that the infidelity, once it happened, the abuse had came. And with the abuse, my mother did leave my dad, and because me and Kim it was just me and Kim was born, and we stayed in this little bitty house, like I'm gonna show you a picture of this house. It's not the exact house because they had took the house down, but if I go back into my external hard drives, I know I'll be able to find the exact house because we had lived at 5504 on Greer. And then me and Kim went to Langston, and that picture that you see me with the purple dress on, that was like my first fifth grade picture. Kim, I think, was in like probably second or third grade, but Kim had a book with the happy lion goes to Africa. She was holding that, and my nephew had sent me a picture of my niece that looked just like Kim when Kim was young. And so after we left there, we came because we ended up staying to Cheney's basement because my mom was, still, she still loved my dad, and it was hard to get away from him. However, when her, Faye, and my mother, Auntie Zeddy had decided to move, they all came once we into Chicago. I don't think Auntie Zeddy lived in St. Louis. She just was coming to get her sister because she had sent my mother through college, and that's, she took care of my mother like my mother took care of her brother here in St. Louis, so in Milwaukee. So we ended up staying in Chicago in the Stateway Garden. I don't know how long that was. I just remember just going down all them stairs and stuff. However, when we moved to Milwaukee, I can remember my dad coming back. Came back to Milwaukee, and he came back because he wanted his family. I think by then, with them going back and forth, my sister had ended up being born. And then, because Crystal was, when my dad cheated, my mother came to Milwaukee and cheated on my dad, and she ended up with a baby. And then my dad, I guess it was some makeup, sex or something, because him and Chris is like probably 11 months apart or something like that. Billy, he's resting peacefully. So my elder sister Kim is deceased, and my baby brother Billy is deceased. But like I told you, my dad, he had remarried, and the lady that he's with now she has a son too, which is my brother. His name is Billy too. He actually got the same name as my brother that was in the grave, but he knows that he wasn't the second, he's the third, because I had to give him the clarity of that and have him understand it. And doing the math and everything lined up. And yeah, I even remember a conversation that me and my father's wife had where she told me when my mother left him that he was a mess. So that just further let me know that when Kim had told me that she was the one who my dad was cheating with, that kind of verified that. And not only that, somebody else that was close to her had told me also that she was messing with a married man over on Greer. So after us leaving, now we in Milwaukee. We in Milwaukee. 6 years, 7 years old. Well, me and my sister was supposed to be watching my brother. My mother was working. You know, we did do the education as I showed you and everything. My brother ended up getting hit by a car. Kim was upstairs, I think, probably on the telephone. I was downstairs. My sister, my baby sister that I hadn't mentioned yet, I probably did. Her dad, brother, was the one who rode around on a bicycle and had said, your brother just got hit by a car. And I remember I ran upstairs and I told Kim, and then, because Kim had to call my mom, and I went around the corner, and that's when I seen my brother, all, you know, the way I saw him in the streets. And it's something, because I'm telling you this now, and I really don't see him in the streets. But when I used to talk about it, I could see everything. So I've been delivered from that, and I thank God for that. And but I can remember my mother being really out of it. She was out of it in the middle of the streets, holding her head and just breaking down and everything. And then I was telling you guys about the restaurant she used to go to all the way in Cudahy. We used to go to J.C. Penney's in Cudahy all the time. It's a restaurant. She would go over there and she'd just break down and cry a lot. And when I got some of the pictures, it was like at nighttime, because when me and my grandchildren was doing some of my history, and I was showing them where their mother had grew up at, their mother and their uncle grew up at, when I lived in Burlington, Wisconsin. On my way back, I had to take pictures of other places and stuff. So when I'm not going to do the backwards thing, I'm going to do it going forward. Because when it got real dark, that's when I was at this other place taking the picture. So, and then I got some tributes that I want to send out too, because like I can remember Caroline and Isabel Thompson and Cheryl Conley. I remember them, you know, coming to the funeral, because when my brother passed away, Prophet Williams, which had Williams Temple on Tatonia there in between Hadley and Center. Yeah, he's the one who had officiated my brother's funeral, because across that street was like a little strip. It had a strip club on there, had a movie theater on there, had a restaurant on there, and it probably had some other stuff, but I can't remember the other stuff because I only was indulged in them three places. My mom she seen Bobby Blue Bland. He had came one time down at the little movie theater. We went down there and he was playing with my nose. She worked in the strip club and she also worked at the restaurant. And then I remember the strip club across the street too, called Playboys, all on Tatonia. So this is all around that course of time. And then I can remember meeting my mother's mother, you know, because we ended up staying over there with my mother a little bit, because my grandmother, she lived on 29th in Hampton, 4739 North 29th Street. And I remember that. I even go by there sometime and look. I got a picture of the switch tree that she used to go whoop us with too. But at this time, because my uncle and my cousin Pam was staying with my mother, with my grandmother, and me and Carmelita was going to Garden Homes. Because mind you, Carmelita was close. She was real close to me. We went to Garden Homes together. Kim and Pam went to Edison, which is it was a middle school. And then I wasn't even into boys or nothing, but I can tell you some of the people that I remember from Garden Homes. Like, I remember Kevin Freeman. I remember Derek Greenlee, because Derek Greenlee, we ended up going to Bayview and everything together because we still see each other at the high school reunions. Him and isn't that Christopher Torrance? Christopher Turan. I know a lot of the people from Bayview because uh, I was I was in there at Bayview. But I don't want to get to Bayview yet because Bayview was my high school years. After I went to Garden Homes, I believe I ended up at Fritchie because I started living in the park. I do want to. I had I was gonna make a family tree about for the family and stuff, and put it on here. But I can practically tell you how that went, and then you already know. 'Cause I actually pretty much summed that up already on the paternal side. But on the maternal side, let me just go here. Papa Ernest was my grandma Ada's husband, and they made my grandmother Classy, and they made my Uncle Leroy. Uncle Leroy, I didn't really know Uncle Leroy's. I think I met Sadie. I don't even know if Sadie was his wife or was it his daughter. But I do know that that my cousin Ned was his daughter, which is by Aunt Anna, Indiana, Dorsey, and she's Aunt Corina Hines' sister, which is Daryl Hines' mother. So, but then I just was recently at a homegoing celebration of the little young lady Ashante Terry, and I seen my cousin Joanne, and I grew up Joanne being my cousin too, which is Ned's sister. And she was like, "Girl, yeah, I know who you is. You looking just like me," and that's what I'm saying because I didn't know, you know. So apparently Ned and Joanne was Uncle Lee's daughters, which is my grandmother's nieces. So my Auntie Frida had Poochie, which is Carolyn, and Poochie was adopted into the family. Nobody really knew that, and if you saw on the picture that I put on there, Poochie is included on there because Poochie she never was like adopted. She was more like an auntie to us, but she was like a auntie cousin. Poochie had 4 children. Her 4 children was Erica, Tina, Roy, and Trina. Trina got killed over in Detroit, and I actually have a picture of Trina with the baby and the fetus in the casket. And then we have Auntie Alice was next. Auntie Alice has Nikki. Me and Nikki used to be real close coming up because our birthdays was like 2 days apart, and I was like probably a year or two older than Nikki. But Nikki had one son that I only met Nikki's son when he was a little young man. Now he's over in his 30s and stuff now. He was barely walking. Then we have my Auntie Zeddy. Auntie Zeddy is the aunt that I became kind of a product of because with the picture taking and everything, kind of got a lot of that from her. We kind of got the same style and a lot of things and stuff. They actually said that I should have been Auntie Zeddy's daughter and my cousin Ned should have been my mother's daughter. But Auntie Zeddy had 4 children, and it was Pam, which Pam was with my grandmother, Classy, all the time. Then there was Antoinette, which is my cousin. I just did my study with her. Hey, Necho, earlier today. And then is my cousin, I don't know, Dude or Sheila was the oldest, so she gonna tell me later. But my cousin Dude, me and Sheila was real close at first, and then me and Dude, we found out that we liked a lot of stuff. We did a lot of singing together. So, and I used to come back and forth to Chicago, Milwaukee to come get my cousin because I needed my cousin. Um, and like I said, back then we was kind of doing favorite stuff because I think, Dude was everybody's favorite. And I got a picture of him in the casket too. And we taking pictures of corpse. My auntie used to do it all the time. She did a lot of photography too, and I picked that up from her. And then, of course, is my mother. My mother had Kim. Kim rested peacefully. Then it's me. Then it's Crystal. Then it's Deetta. And then no, before Deetta, it was my brother's Billy, and he's resting peacefully. He's been gone for some 40 years now. And then there's my Uncle Bob with Bobby, Raquel, and Robin. But you also see Jackie and Nets and Auntie Zeddy in her little bunch because Jackie is Jackie was like more of closer to me than some of my own siblings was. I do remember my grandmother's sister, Aunt Addie. I also remember Kunthama because a lot of times when we had funerals over in St. Louis, we had to stay over at her funeral home, and we used to be so spooked. But after that happened, I think I kind of, when I came here, then I went to Fritchie. I think Carmelita went to Edison. Carmelita went to Edison. I had Elvis Jordan. Carmelita had Elvis Gordon. But me, we never had any relations or nothing because I used to act like act like I was fast. And then I had a best friend at Fritchie. Her name was Amanda Allen, and Amanda had Romero, and they still together. They got children and everything. And then after I left there, let me see, I do remember teachers from even. I remember teachers from Garden Homes. Miss O.T. was the drill team teacher. Everybody knew Miss O.T. Miss Montgomery, she was my first teacher. When I got here, she used to take us in that coat room with that paddle. Mr. Bodner, Miss Sasniak. I remember my teachers from back at Garden Home. And then when I went to Fritchie, I barely know any of my Fritchie teachers, but I do remember my my godmothers and Bernice Rivers from Fritchie, and she was over the drill team at Fritchie. And then, so during this course of time, I'm living in Lapham Park. So I want to give a tribute to some of the people in Lapham Park because I came up with almost like 50. Because since I'm 53, I wanted to get 53 names like the Goodmans, the Brooks, the Cephas, the Johnsons, the Nash, the Browns, the Starks, the Longs, the Miltons, because it was like Johnsons. I had Janice Johnson, it was Johnny Maiden Johnson, and Sharon Johnson. That's three different families. And then there was the Evans, the Mosleys, the McLemores, the Nobles, the Irbies, and both of the Bryants, like Wanda Bryant lived next door to me. And then it was like Teresa Bryant and them on the other side, the Dion and them. Then the Parks and the Rogers, the Bruces. Hey, Nera, I just seen Nera. The Macbeths, the Loves, both of the Hangs. It was like Joe and Curtis Hangs, and then it was Hazel and Connie Hangs now. Fletchers, the Jewels, the Clarks, the Finches, the Robinsons, the Harrises, the Hollands, Douglas, Sanders, Ewans, Moores, Jordans, the Jeffersons, Cooleys, the Jacksons, the Shans, the Pates, Thorntons, the Sprewers, the Millers, the Ballards, the Morehouses, the Scrubs, and then you and Michael and them. I just sang at her mom's funeral. I forgot their last name. But some things stick and some things don't. And then even from like from doing that course, cause before I went there, I was telling y'all about the church that I went to. The first church that I went to was Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, and that's where the witchcraft was taking place at. Reverend Champion was the uh, overseer, but it wasn't him that was doing it. It was his wife that brought somebody in. So, um, and it was some Oglesby's there. It was the Sister Rich, um, the Hempfields, the Johnsons, Sharon and Tanya. Who's it? Tanya Johnson? Sonya. Then Ruby Jean Hall and them, Diane Griffin and the Mills, who I was telling y'all about. Joanne was my sister's friend, and Thelma was my friend, and it was a couple more in there. And then the House of the Lord, Church of God in Christ, where Gazella Johnson and the Millers, which was my sister, had married Gazella's brother, the Coolies and Smills, the Harrises and the Beamans. I don't want to keep going on and on with them, but the the House of the Lord is a church where when I was young I would have them started singing a little bit more than I was singing at the other church, and I started winning plaques, singing in gospel conventions down at the Mecca, uh, meeting at Greater West Side, singing with Durrell and Phoebe them down at the Mecca, winning plaques. So, and even down in like in Lamb Park was like a little stumping ground and everything for me. I did a lot of stuff over there. But yeah, I forgot when I was going to Fritchie, I also was dancing with the TS traffic stoppers with Akima, Packy, which is Paris and London, them, um, Amanda, of course. And then in Lavin Park, I was telling you about me being back in this neighborhood that I'm in because of the one of the young men that I was messing with. But before then, um, in between that, my mother worked at this restaurant on off of 13th and Atkinson. And these was the Rolfs. The Rolf family had this restaurant because at this time, that's when I started messing around with this young man named Ronnie. Ronnie was uh, my first. He was my first. Even though I talked about Paul, Paul was my first lover, and Ronnie is the first person that I had intercourse with, relations with. I had a relationship with Paul and had relations with Ronnie. And Ronnie was something else too because he was a player and had a lot of fights with different women until Michael Cook came and shut that down. Uh, and Michael Cook really liked him some Cynthia, and we never did anything. But then when I lived in Labmite, across the street from where I am, it used to be a record shop. And I used to come and get the old school stuff. The 45s and everything was popular back then. And I met a young man in there, and he was real whorish. His name was Kenny. We kept burning each other back and forth. Because by this time I had became kind of fast. So after Kenny, it was Lance, and Lance was like was a smooth dude. He was real smooth. Um, me and Lance was going together when I was going to Bayview, but Kenny was going when I was going to Bayview too. But I did go with Durrell. Went with Durrell when I was in my like freshman year, Durrell Williams. but we never did anything because I wasn't doing anything. However, and there was Phil Baker, but then when I was with Lance, me and Lance used to skip school and I go by my sister's house, but my sister loved Lance. Um, that's when they was living in the building that Jeffrey Dahmer had lived in. My cousin Poochie actually stayed in the same apartment, but she was in the apartment way before, I don't even want to talk about that, but she was staying in the apartment before Larry and them had took over the building, because that's when, because my auntie Frida was the manager over the building when we were all in there, but when Jeffrey Dahmer ended up in the building, 924 North to 25th Street, that's when Larry and them had the building. So there you have it. I did do my 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 education here from St. Louis, from Langston to Garden Homes to Fritchie. From Fritchie, I did go to shows for like a week, but I got into it with Nobian from Hillside, and then I had got changed out of there. Then I went to Bayview, and in Bayview, I did a little drugs in Bayview because, and I didn't understand, because my sister had gave me these drugs. It was called Speed, and they must was working for her because she was getting out the house a lot. But I didn't know my stepfather had been messing with her, and I'm still getting. I need to talk to Falcom Butler, and I am going to talk to John too, because a lot of stuff had kind of came from that. And with me telling my story, and sometimes I don't be wanting to dig a little, but I always talk to both of them. John was my big brother, and JB was my big brother too. So, and JB mother had told me about my sister, you know, because he couldn't get into me, he couldn't penetrate, and I thank God for that. But my cousin Carmelita was getting molested by her stepfather, which was Willie Doodoo. And he actually was trying me too. So, and it's always something how when one person is getting molested, it's like they tell the other person and the other person to try you too. Because I remember when my stepfather brother was calling me when I lived all the way out of town, and my mother was like, "What you want with my daughter?" You know, and then later on, his brother went to jail. The baby boy went to jail for molesting. But I tell you something about that, about the molestation and everything. Sometimes people that have done some stuff like that does things like that, somebody done did something like that to them too, because I had almost became a product of it myself, because I did mess around with a young man, but I wasn't molesting him, he was molesting me, but and I loved him. I'm going to show you a picture of my baby, because he's still around too, and for a while it was like I started grooming him for myself, you know, and I was supposed to go back and get him, and I didn't. After I had left, my husband had moved me down here, but we're not going to go there yet, because the last time I was telling you about me and my husband was, we was good friends, and I met him in Loudon too. I was with Jerry first, Jerry Rogers. Jerry went to Bayview with me, and Jerry is resting too, peacefully. And then Jerry went to jail, and I had lost Jerry's baby, and Jerry had said something to me that I didn't like, so I left him. I left him while he was in prison, in jail. Like, he was actually in jail. I was had faithful for like 9 months until he said something that hurt my feelings. And with LJ being my friend, I just started falling in love with him. It was like, cause we used to club together, and my mother used to be like, "Thank you for bringing my baby home." I really like that boy. I really like that boy. So, and me and LJ had kind of been through a lot of stuff as friends, and then, cause I was setting my other friends up with him, you know, and then once we got together, we got married, things had changed. Things had changed. And right here I can talk about LJ. LJ had me. He took care of me. We had, our son was the first child that we had, but we was together. We was together, and then as friends for a long time, no relations. Then we started having relations after I started liking them. And when Jerry got out of jail, I was just about fixing to have my son. So, and Jerry didn't care. He still wanted me, and my ex-husband didn't like him for that. Um, I was saying, my ex-husband didn't like Jerry because I loved him for that, because at this time my husband was being kind of abusive, and he started being dirty towards me. Sometimes when you go telling people your story, or you start telling people how about your relationships and how you were involved with hurt people and things of that nature, and they turn around and they use that against you. Jerry allowed me to know that he really cared about me, and he didn't care about what LJ thought. He still was coming for me, but it's just I stayed with my husband, and I love Jerry for that. Jerry passed away, and it really hurt me to the core. Jerry was he was really really handsome and everything, bow-legged. uh, all the girls friends I had, I thought they was my friends. They came over to the house so they can look at Jerry. But Jerry didn't pay them no attention because Jerry loved him some Cynthia. And and he passed away. That really hurted me. Really hurt me. And yeah, so a lot of things I don't have much to say about most of the relationships that I was in, because most of them really wasn't, they wasn't really, probably wasn't really about much or nothing. Like I went with Daryl in my whole freshman year at Bayview, and we never had any type of relations. I didn't start messing around till I was 16 years old. And that's when I told my mother, because I had a relationship with my mother, I told her that I thought I was ready to start having sex. And she had Kim take me to Planned Parenthood. Mind you, my sister had got pregnant at the age of 15, and my mom didn't want me to end up like my sister, so she talked to me, and I talked to her, and I got on some birth control. And then when my sister ended up getting pregnant again, she got pregnant with my nephew, my eldest nephew, and my mom had she put him on me so that I wouldn't get pregnant, and I didn't have my first child till I was 21 years old. And actually, me and Jerry used to take my nephew everywhere. We used to go down to the cinema, and downtown they had like 3 movie theaters down there. The one that played karate, they played karate flicks all the time. Bro, I'm surprised Romel ain't no black belt. Cause he stayed at the movie theaters. He stayed at the zoo. You know, I treated him like he was my son, and uh, taught him how to use the bathroom. I changed plenty of diapers, and I dressed him. I sold his clothes. I made his clothes. You know, that's why he stay fitted today. Uh, it's a lot, and it's some more stuff that haven't even really registered. You know, but yeah, class of '85 from Bayview. Uh, and at this time now, I'm going to take a break because what's going to happen is I got a young man. I'm going to show you his picture. Um, who's going to start talking about how my children's dad was. He know him and everything, and how I was too back in the day. Cause his dad had this grocery store. Now it wasn't even a grocery store. He was